World of Warcraft is a game that is all about war and conflict at its heart, especially between the Horde and the Alliance. And when I first logged into this game when I was younger, I expected right from the beginning to be thrown into this faction conflict, into an all-out war right from level 1. But luckily for my noob self though, instead I was given the haunted woods of Tirisfal Glades to explore, which was Horde territory, meaning that I was safe from all those level 60 paladins I had heard about atop their golden horses. And I quested in Tirisfal for a time, being exposed to awesome stories like the Agaman Mills family crypt questline, as well as the mystery surrounding the bodies being smuggled out of Tirisfal. I made a video about both of these storylines recently. But although I was loving the adventure, traveling across the haunted forests of northern Lordaeron, and even exploring the barren lands across the sea, I still didn't have that Warcraft itch scratched for me. At least, not yet. I wanted the war. I wanted the bloodshed, the violence that I had read so much about in the lore. Where was this reflected in the game and in the player base? Or was World of Warcraft just a game of doing quests? Well, soon enough, my friends, I was baptized into fire itself, and it began in Hillsbrad foothills. First of all, you have to understand that Hillsbrad it's such a strong contrast to the other zones that you will encounter in Lordaeron as a Horde player. If you chose to be a Forsaken like I did, you were used to haunted woods and monsters lurking amongst clawed up trees, castles atop mountains, housing sorcerers gone mad due to their meddling with dark magic, and then suddenly, around level 20 or so, you get Hillsbrad Foothills. Nestled on the southern coast of the Eastern Kingdom's northern territories, this zone is the exact opposite of everything that you've known so far. Hillsbrad is beautiful. It's green and it's full of life. The taint of the Scourge hasn't even touched it. Hillsbrad is full of all these lovely trees of multiple colors. There's a gentle river that cuts the zone in half, snow-touched mountains in the north, and the comfortable seaside town of South Shore where sailors and weary travelers rest and share stories from lands far south. And from the moment that I understood the beauty and tranquility of Hillsbrad compared to Tirisfal and Silverpine Forest, it disgusted me. And I admit, as I walked these roads for the first time, I wanted to decorate what appeared to be human lands with the blood of my faction's enemy, the Alliance. Little did I realize, however, what I was in for, because you see, all those years ago, I was playing on Smolderthorn US as an undead mage, and when I first arrived in Hillsbrad, making my way towards Terran Mill, which I had been told was the Horde's refuge in this unblighted zone, a message appeared in the general chat that I still recall to this day. It was a call to arms of sorts. A person said that they were forming a raid party to be a counterattack on some Alliance aggression that had occurred in the zone before my arrival. Now, I had no idea what a raid group was at the time, I admit, but I decided that despite the fact I was so low level, I would help my fellow Horde brothers regardless. And what followed, I can only describe as adrenaline and awe. When I arrived at Terran Mill after having been invited into this raid group, I was greeted to this tremendous host of Horde players. An entire war party had gathered in this small town, composed of 2 or 3 other raid groups, including our own. This massive host was all buffing each other and sharpening their weapons and trading items amongst themselves, preparing for what was to come. And what followed was a charge that I have never seen replicated in any other game. It wasn't a call to battle done for honor points or gear or any sort of reward other than simple revenge upon the Alliance, who had struck a blow against the Horde earlier that same day. Keep in mind, this story takes place all the way back in 2005. So there I am, running alongside undead skeletal horses, wolves, raptors, and kodos, trying to keep pace along with many other lower level individuals who were also contributing to this battle. Now, I didn't know what to expect, but I soon discovered what has made Hillsbrad Foothills such a legendary zone even to this day. Because upon us reaching the town of South Shore, we smashed our way into this Alliance town. We killed the guards and the lower level players in the contested territory without care or without mercy. And as we slaughtered the town's quest NPCs, the vendors and the citizens, aloft there was this cry that rose forth that echoed across the foothills. Suddenly, from amongst the horde war cries, there were shouts of incoming and watch out. The Alliance had come. It was like a train in the air. There were these griffins all soaring in from Ironforge and distant lands, entire guilds and mercenary players eager for the glory of slaughter and war making. They were descending from the air and landing behind our ranks, if you can imagine it. We were being struck from the front by South Shore guards, and our retreat was being cut off by the Alliance that were flying in at our backs. This huge horde army that I was a part of, we were pinned in the center of South Shore. And yet, thankfully, through the graveyard, we were able to escape. We reformed our lines, and a battle that lasted the whole afternoon ensued. Alliance war parties against entire horde guilds. The server lagged. The zone became decorated with skeletal remains of fallen heroes, and it was glorious. And there have been so many videos made all across YouTube just talking about and honoring these battles that used to happen in Hillsbrad Foothills all those years ago. And it was that day, all those years ago, that I think that I got my first true introduction to Warcraft, or the Warcraft in World of Warcraft. It was that introduction to Hillsbrad Foothills, a zone that to this day is unrivaled as being WoW's most iconic in terms of world PvP and capturing the Warcraft spirit. And I'm sure for many of you that played on PvP servers back in the day, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But unfortunately, if you were to fly out to Hillsbrad Foothills today, the fields are empty. Terran Mill is silent and South Shore is blighted and destroyed. The drums of war are silenced forevermore. And I do admit that sometimes as I walk the roads of Hillsbrad in Classic WoW, I remember, because this battle that I was a part of, this battle that I just told you the story of, it wasn't just a one-off thing. This was a daily occurrence in that zone on PvP realms. The war was never ending back in those days. But why? Like what was it that made this zone so damn filled with PvP? Well, let me explain for those of you that weren't there. I would say that there's a few reasons, but the primary ones are simply this. Terran Mill lies in the north of the zone, and South Shore is in the south, with a road connecting the two towns with a simple tower in the middle. These two player hubs are very close to each other if you look at the zone from above, and of course, with them being so close, this would inspire conflict. But it was also the fact that the quests in this zone played a very huge part in the wars that were waged here. Because you see, many of the quests in Hillsbrad, they were shared by both the Horde and the Alliance, meaning that both factions were naturally seeking the exact same items and mobs to kill, so competition would of course lead to ganking and killing. But there was also the fact that, well, not a lot of people talk about this one, but there was a unique element regarding the Horde quests in this zone that likely would, well, set off Alliance players. Two things, actually. The first thing is Hillsbrad Fields, which is located in the western part of the zone. This is where a bunch of Alliance-friendly NPCs are located. Farmers and citizens. This little town would have been an ideal base for Alliance players with its apple orchards and defendable town hall in the center. But in actuality, this spot is just a questing location for Horde players. There's no reason for Alliance players to really go here. Forsaken, Orcs, Tauren, and Trolls, they were constantly preying on this area of the zone for multiple quests, collecting skulls and whatnot, and just pretty much ruining this entire corner of Hillsbrad Foothills. And I would say that maybe this inspired a little bit of retribution in the hearts of Alliance players, because here they had a ton of friendly NPCs, and yet they were being slaughtered by Horde players. And perhaps this inspired a sense of patriotism in the Alliance players who fought here, as defending Hillsbrad Fields, this was a very common thing that Alliance players did during World PvP in this zone. There was usually always like a group of Alliance players chilling over in the fields, just preventing Horde players from questing. And why? Because denying Horde players access to this really major questing spot was essential to stopping Horde progression in the zone. You also had the elite area in the lower right-hand corner of the zone. This is like a dwarven bunker that Alliance players would hide out in, and they could retreat here if need be to protect themselves if the Horde was overwhelming them in the battle out in the fields. The World PvP in Hillsbrad Fields, in South Shore, over in the Dwarven Fortress, all these locations, and of course in Terran Mill itself, all these locations just made for such epic and memorable battles that as soon as you heard about them, you kind of wanted to go and be a part of them. Hillsbrad was also one of the few flight paths that lower level Alliance players had access to if they wanted to run Shadowfang Keep nearby in Silverpine Forest. And that's something that many Alliance players needed to do, because if you wanted to do your Paladin class quests, well, you had to go into Shadowfang Keep. And a group of low-level Alliance players getting ganked on the road to Silverpine, that is certainly a way to kickstart a zone-wide conflict, as higher-level Alliance players would naturally want revenge or to act as bodyguards for the newbies, and this would lead to quarrels with higher-level Horde players. Really just what began to happen with Hillsbrad Foothills because of its smaller scale as a zone, because of the fact that these two hubs were so close to each other, Hillsbrad Foothills just began to build this reputation over its time of just being the place that you go if you want to engage in World PvP. And on many PvP servers, this was a zone that was impossible to level in. There was no way you could do it because there were always rogues hiding in the shadows ready to gank you and kill you. There were always groups of players clashing out in the fields, fighting over mobs. It was an impossible to quest in zone, and that only added to Hillsbrad Foothills' PvP reputation. You even had quests on the Horde side of things like Helcular's Revenge, where you actually have to go to South Shore as a Horde player in order to finish the quest chain. You show up there, you get killed by an Alliance player, and it naturally just starts a domino effect that turns into an all-out conflict. It was like Blizzard accidentally designed Hillsbrad Foothills to be this hub of PvP. I know they probably didn't intend for it to be that when they were, designing the zone, but that's what it turned into, and it was absolutely fantastic. And I don't think there's really been a place in World of Warcraft that's really captured this organic Warcraft feeling. Sure, Blizzard has created dedicated PvP zones over the years, like Wintergrasp, for example, but Hillsbrad was different. Hillsbrad wasn't a place where people were fighting over access to a raid boss or to gear or something. There was something about this zone that really captured the imaginations of the players that quested here and fought here. And this is why Hillsbrad Foothills has always been one of my favorite zones in World of Warcraft, not necessarily because of its quests, but because of all the battles and stories that occurred among these trees. Don't get me wrong, there are some very awesome quests and stories to be told about Hillsbrad though, for those of you that played on PvE Realms back in the day and actually got to quest through this zone, which I will talk about in future videos here soon. But I just wanted to take a moment to remember Hillsbrad for what it was back in the day. A zone that was so inspirational in regards to PvP that during World of Warcraft's anniversary years later, Blizzard brought the zone back as an entire battleground, which was a little bit of a miss because it wasn't the organic battles of Warcraft past, but it was a nice homage to old Warcraft back in the day. So thank you all for listening to this little nostalgic video, this little window into the past for those of you that were not there. A big thank you to Zygor, this channel's sponsor, who is linked down below in the description. It is World of Warcraft's ultimate guide add-on if you want to check them out. Of course, a big shout out to our channel members. And I wanted to thank each and every one of you that have been enjoying the Tirisfal Glades and Silverpine Forest videos that I've been making. We are now officially in Hillsbrad foothills, my friends, Hillsbrad and Alterac Mountains. We will be exploring this zone for a few videos, and then we will be traveling north up into the Plaguelands. My name is Nixium, and I will see you all with my next video.